So basically, this weekend, we got Devin Haney and George Kambosas, dude. I mean, the undisputed lightweight championship, one of the fucking best matchups you can make. What's your thoughts about this fight?
It's a good fight. I think anyone that has a brain is excited about this fight. You got arguably the best two fighters, the most accomplished two fighters currently in terms of standing and rank in the division. And they fight in completely contrasting styles. There's drama around the venue. There's drama around the father and Church, the hype man, and Davison can't be at the fight. We always like some drama. Kambosas being underestimated. The crowd is going to be nuts. I mean, I always love these type of fights where the crowd is part of the fight. And I feel like this is going to have a sick crowd and it's going to play a role in the fight. I have no clue how this fight goes, but I know it's going to be entertaining.
So before we get into the actual fight itself, for anyone who doesn't know, including me, what is all of the drama that you're referring to?
So Devin's father, Bill, BH the Great, it has, I guess you'd say allegedly, people believed he was doing something he wasn't. And because of these allegations, he caught a federal charge. I believe, according to him, if you have a charge over a year that's a felony, you're not allowed to go to Australia. So because of that and because of the circumstances, he's not allowed. We believe, though it's not been confirmed, Ben Davison can't travel due to his ties to people within boxing who federal governments are highly skeptical and suspicious of right now for their involvement in things, we'll say criminal espionage. And also, like his godfather, Church, I believe, isn't able to travel basically based off of things in his past as well.
So who's going to be in Devin's corner? Because that's like the two guys that are always in the corner.
You don't know the answer to this?
I don't. You're teaching me right now.
Yoel Judah.
No shit.
I think that's a good fit, honestly, because Zab Judah is probably one of the most underappreciated fighters at the time. One could say he was maybe overrated in his era, but now he's really underrated for what he did. And his father was a really, really no nonsense, tough coach. Where if Zab didn't perform, I felt like he was going to have a fight in the corner after he had the fight in the ring. So, I mean, if this fight gets tough, Yoel is not going to be at a loss for words to explain stuff to Devin.
Now, do you have any idea how that partnership came about?
Well, I believe, and I'm nearly certain, Zab Judah, I believe, is the godfather to Devin Haney. So I believe they have basically a family-like relationship. And Yoel, I believe, is he training Alamastia, the Florida fighter that's Puerto Rican that fights in New York? When you were at the Berlanga card, was Yoel Judah cornering someone on that card? Because I believe he has a fighter he's cornering that's been on some of these top-ranked Puerto Rican shows. I can't quite think of it. And I'm sure he's kind of enthusiastic right now to get back in the mix and kind of get going.
How do you think that ultimately impacts Devin and his performance and his strategy? Or is he so tunnel vision that, he's going to make it happen regardless?
Kambosas is the X factor because we saw that his mental warfare actually affected Teofimo Lopez. I would not be shocked if he starts bringing up that his father isn't with him and like that Devin said, talk to me like a man. And then he's going to make fun of the fact that his father isn't there. Kambosas is going to try to make Devin emotional before the fight because I think Kambosas' best path to victory is to have Devin fight with emotion. And it's just going to be, how does Devin handle all of these circumstances leading into this fight?
Yeah, it feels like that's a lot all at one time to have, to not have the corner you used to, particularly when, his pops has been with him his whole career. You look at the time difference, that alone is a challenge in and of itself. And then on top of that, he's in with a fucking great fighter. You know what I mean?
Possibly a legendary fighter in Kambosas. And in a place where we both think Manny Pacquiao beat Jeff Horn, yet they gave the fight to Jeff Horn. So minor details, Devin isn't the biggest puncher in the world. And if this fight's somewhat close, the common belief is Kambosas will get it on the cards, and that's so basically there's a lot that could break a young man, and we're going to see a lot about Devin Haney through this fight. He got what he was looking for. Sometimes people ask for stuff. Devin got his moment to prove he's great right here because the man upstairs is putting a lot of circumstances at him. So now he gets to show us what he's made of.
I mean, and it seems like, particularly in this era, for the most part, a lot of guys need everything to be exactly as they want it in order to take a challenging fight. And he's clearly said, kind of, fuck that. I'll go where it's uncomfortable and take the tough fight.
And you have to respect it because the sport isn't even like a sport anymore. It's more or less like stocks and bonds. Like you build yourself up to be Tesla. And then you're just like, okay, how can I preserve the value of my stock? What's the best Fortune 500 fight I can have? So then I can have another. And we're sitting back here and this is how they're talking to us about like, well, I made this much for this. We don't care how much you made. We're paying $75 darn near every single month this year in a financial recession where gas is the most expensive it's ever been. Groceries are more expensive than I've ever seen. And then these guys have the nerve to talk about, well, this is the best path for me to make money. Okay, but we don't have to buy it if you keep giving us crap. And I think boxing's just at this weird state where people are forgetting, the fighters are forgetting this is a sport.
How do you think that keeps happening? Do you think it's just that they give us the bigger they give us, a good fight just often enough to keep everybody kind of shut the fuck up? Or, how does that sustain?
Well, I think and this might have been my issue with PBC is I think the good fights happen on the undercards, especially deep on the undercard, which creates the guys that go to the top. Then you kind of have like to become a legend, you have to win a legendary fight. So any top 10 guy has beaten someone. Jermell Charlo, he got a win over Lubin. That was a very iconic moment. That was a crossing, a big point. And then the Castano win to win emphatically. Those are big wins. Kambosas, he gets the win over Teofimo. I just feel like it's such a grueling journey where fighters are so underpaid. When they get to a point of leverage, they don't want to go back to being where they were. So it's like survival and preservation. They want to get as much as they can while they're at their highest earning potential. And I think it's really sad that we don't have a system where if you fight in an entertaining fight, you don't go all the way back down the line. Sean Porter, when he fought Kell Brook, was the IBF champion and then lost his complete ranking in the IBF at welterweight when he lost. He wasn't even ranked 15th. I mean, that's the issue with guys taking competitive fights is that type of crap can happen.
Yeah, and I've always wondered, because it seems like when PBC has a group of guys that are in the same weight class, they're not rushing to fight them, but they will match them at some point. And I've always just wondered, like, how much of it is sheltering and then how much of it is just not wanting to do business out of house, or is it both?
Well, I think that's every promoter, right? Like we have all these promoters, whether it's PBC, Top Rank, Matchroom, all that. They all have great fighters, but it's like these promoters, and it's logical, right? If you don't have to split money with another person, why would you want to split money? So it's like you want to sign up divisions. So it's like if you look, it looks like the modern view of the sport is pick a division. Showtime picked 154. They have basically all the 154 fighters. It looks like PBC has the welterweights. If you're not with PBC, it's going to be hard to get the marquee fights, or if you're not with Showtime. Divisions are being bought up by, it feels like, promoters and networks, and that feels like the new normal. And what I hope to see is with this rush for undisputed, we see fights like Michaela Mayer versus Alicia Baumgardner, where in theory this fight shouldn't get made. But what happened? The two fighters called for the fight, and it does business because it makes sense.
When do you think that point is that it crosses the line of like, okay, now it's worth it?
all these guys talk about business, right? But what's the big thing all business people talk about is like a free market where you can assess value and see where the value truly is. For as much as boxers want to talk about business, they never want to talk about a free and equitable marketplace. So they never want to be like, okay, Charlo versus Golovkin. Let's just put it out to the world, put it out to networks and see who will bid the most. If a network that the fighter that feels like they want the most advantages wins, they're going to retract. Didn't this happen with Adonis Stevenson and Sergey Kovalev, where it was like it goes up to a free market, there's a great purse, and it's like, oh, shoot, we wanted to be the A side, and they pull out. And that's kind of the issue is in this day and age, even with Kambosas, you're hearing him talk about I'm the A side. Who cares? You know, who cares from a fight fan perspective who's the A side or the B side? We know it from a perspective of betting or being logical, or if you're going to the event, who the event is catered around. But realistically, it's like you got to take some of these hard fights to be considered legendary, because in this current climate, we're having too many fighters that are having forgettable careers.
I mean, even if it is somewhat pointless, do you see Kambosas as the A side or as the favorite?
I mean, he definitely is the A side just because it's in Australia and like the general marketing is. I mean, I don't know how to set the lines for this fight because I feel like if Devin does what Devin can do, Devin can make this a very easy fight for himself. I just have to see how he responds to like all the fight week buildup. And Kambosas is someone that's very easy to underestimate, but he's super mentally strong. Like his mental fortitude is what makes him a fantastic fighter. And he's going to fight better on fight night than he does basically for the rest of the camp.
In this lead up, I've been leaning towards Kambosas just off of the TO fight and off of the momentum of that. And then the closer we get to this fight, I lean more towards Devin because there was so many times against Tio where he was leaning in, where there was tactically he was giving shit up for George to capitalize on. And Devin's not going to give him all that. Devin's going to get on that fast jab, and it's going to be immediately like, yo, how do I get past this? You know, Devin's going to give him way less opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it just comes down to, like, if this was a video game, I'd rather be Devin Haney than George Kambosas. I'll just put it like that. If it's a video game, all things are equal. I'd rather be that. If this was a video game, I'd rather be that guy. But here's the deal. It's not a video game. This is a young man flying to Australia, and he has to battle some things that, whether he'll speak about now or not, they're very real. Like, this is the first time a father who deeply loves him, who's strategized a beautiful life for him, and it came true, won't be with him every step of the journey. And don't think the guy he's fighting is going to try to bring that every single moment up of fight week, that he's going to be trying to torment him, terrorize him, and make him remember that. And it's all about how Devin responds at a young age to that.
It's going to be a very telling fight, bro. This is definitely like a legacy fight for both of them. And I have so much respect for Devin, you know, taking this fight at this point in his career when he could still be in that, like, no, I need to let it all marinate or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I appreciate Devin because like Devin and Rolly are guys that like they're calling for fights and they take the fights. And how many people are calling for fights and then the fights don't happen? These guys, by any means necessary, Devin by any means necessary made this fight happen. Went to another promoter, went to another country. If you don't like this guy, you have to be a hater if you're just looking at it from a pure fight fan perspective, because he's giving you everything the fan says they want. The best matchups, going where it is, not letting the politics dictate things, you know?